I just crossed the bridge out of Hamilton, crossed the Bitterroot River, and I'm going to go up in this direction. So here on the west side of town, once we've crossed the bridge, really, well, we're out of town. So low density residential, some farms, and really the only thing we have here other than that is the very essential services such as this theater. This is like a live action theater. It's a theater out in the middle of a field. And in my experience, that means you might have to go and fight some octopuses in there. So to continue on in our primary quest, we're going this way. There's an arrow for hiking. And specifically, we're going to Blodgett Canyon. And I have to bicycle up a ways to get there. And I will probably put less about that than I did on Roaring Lion. When you're bicycling up a road, it seems very dramatic and stuff, but afterwards it just looks like, well, it's just a road. Anyway, so I will give some updates in a while. So the road did flatten out a little bit, but this is still a leg burner, at least for me. So here, we're going downhill for a while, which normally would be a good thing. But that also means I have to go uphill on the way back. I actually might take a different route on the way back because this does look like this is a little bump here. I could skip this hill entirely. But this is heartening because I can see how far I've gotten up, and this is a really nice view. I'm continuing in this direction. So there's a sign here, limited sight distance. I do notice the initials, ironically enough. But more seriously, as a cyclist on these roads, one of the reasons I get out and walk on these steep hills, along with being very tired, is that a lot of times this is where a car coming over that ridge might be going very fast and might be in my lane. So yeah, be careful bicycling this. So I have noticed several cyclists out on the road today, and this guy passed me. Actually, several people have passed me. Well, when I look at it this way, I have come quite a way from the valley, but I still have a ways to go to the canyon. And honestly, today, I feel more tired than I did 2 weeks ago in Roaring Lion. Part of that could be that even when two roads look pretty much the same on a map, sometimes there is little differences. I think it's about the same elevation gain, but I could be wrong about that. But I'm going to persevere this way. So here we have an arrow for the Blodgett Creek campground, and then we have the Canyon Creek Trailhead at 3 miles. And I hope that where I'm going is closer than that, but I guess we'll find out. So here's where it divides down. You have the Blodgett Overlook Trail. I have been there before on bicycle and also by automobile other times. And the Blodgett Creek Trail is 1.5 miles this way. Let's just continue this direction. 1.5 miles is doable. And it's interesting that I'm trying to think of how many specific times I came to the Blodgett Creek Trail on bicycle. I can remember one specific time, and I think some others. But I think this road isn't quite as familiar to me as I thought it was. In my memory, of course, I was going here every week. And there are other trails throughout here that I'm more familiar with, so I guess I didn't know as much as I thought I did. And as you can see, we are also on a gravel road here. And as I mentioned, the gravel doesn't make it easier, but the fact that there's not traffic zooming by and that I might as well be on a trail now does make it easier. This is the enjoyable part of the ride. About a mile to go. Coming up this road has been encouraging for me because even though it's steep and it's effort, it's fun effort. And I think that's just a function of not having to deal with traffic and being out in these beautiful woods. And it should just be a couple hundred feet. I can see the beginning of the canyon there, so I kind of know how close I am. Here we are, at least for the turn in, for the parking. Notice in April, I think there's one vehicle over there. You can hear the river over there, but otherwise, it's very silent here. We also have an outhouse here, and for National Forest campground, it's pretty luxe. Even a paved parking lot, a picnic table. Very elegant and refined here. So here we have Blodgett Creek that we saw the other week entering the Bitterroot River. Across there, I think that is the overnight camping area. There is a campground here, as opposed to behind me. That's just for the parking lot for day hikers. And along here, this is the Blodgett Canyon Trail, and we'll be following it for a while. It looks pretty well groomed, so let's go for a hike. So one of the most obvious differences between here and Roaring Lion is that this is still intact. This is not burnt down, and with a few differences, this is pretty much what I remember the Roaring Lion looking like, you know, the Ward Mountain area looking like before the fires. And looks very nice. One person from each party, please register here. We need this information to locate you in case of emergency, better serve your needs. And I would not object to doing that at all, but I have no idea how I'm supposed to register. I think that there's supposed to be like a little pen and paper, but I can't see it there, so I'm going to not register today. This is a memorial to a wildland firefighter, a hotshot who died fighting a fire, not here, but in Colorado, but he was from here. But I should note, these forests are kept beautiful and kept safe by the efforts and sometimes sacrifices of firefighters, and some years it can be very dangerous. So thank you to our firefighters. And I'm not sure whether it was because I was on Roaring Lion 2 weeks ago or because Roaring Lion is naturally smaller, but there is an obvious difference between the size and fury of this water and that of the Roaring Lion. Not that it's a contest, but you know, in previous times I've talked about how does this compare to something like Glacier, and a lot of times I said, well, it's not quite Glacier, but you know, more than makes up for it because you're here alone. This, I think, compares quite well to just about anything in Glacier National Park as far as how majestic that scenery is. Yeah, 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 oh yeah. So one difference between here and Roaring Lion, there's thick undergrowth and there's some sharp turns. Those are bad places because you can surprise a bear and a bear can surprise you. So, in a place like this, as you're walking along, you should talk loudly to let them know you're coming, if they are here. Actually, I'm curious because the amount of small trees close together makes me think that this area was burnt, but I'm trying to think of when that would have been. And in places and at times, either burns or also landslides, windstorms are a normal part of the ecosystem, and they disrupt but recharge. And this does look like it has been relatively recently, within 20 years, has been reseeded. And most of these younger trees will die off as they get shaded out. I've been walking along for a little while, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I didn't really have a concrete plan, but one thing is since I made the effort to bicycle up here, might as well enjoy it for a while. One thing I've said before is that the forests here are a mix. So right there you can see we have an open ponderosa woodland, which we also saw coming up. And then if we look more that way towards the river, towards the deeper shadows, those might be some type of Douglas fir, even spruce trees, and much closer you have a lot of undergrowth, alder, maybe something like rowan. So you can see a lot just by looking from side to side. was talking earlier about how rock slides and avalanches can kill trees and then start a cycle of regrowth. And right here we have some big old boulders that seem to have come from somewhere in that direction. And you can see these trees here, and those might actually be what are called slide alders, which are alders that often grow near rock slides. Can't go and check on them yet, but I have a good chance that's what they are. A note about the weather today. When I was starting out, I actually put on my gloves. It was pretty cold. There was a cold wind too. And as I came up here, it kind of went between cold and warm. One thing is that where we are right now, if you think about the altitude, it's about the same as the French Riviera, and it's April, meaning that we're getting about the same amount of sunlight as in August. So imagine like being in the north of Italy, the south of France in late August, and how much sunshine you would be getting. That's how much sunshine we get, but there's still a lot of cold in the air. And you can see that from the snow up ahead. We have a little creek here. Interesting. So earlier I was guessing about these trees being slide alders. If you zoom up, those are alder cones, so that is probably a slide alder or another alder that lives in slides. Not all of them have cones. That might mean they're young and not sexually mature yet. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, let's continue this way, at least for a little while. And once again, we're in kind of like a closed underbrush heavy forest. I'm assuming, just from what I've seen so far, that there had to have been a lot of slides or avalanches or maybe fires, but I don't really see stumps here at some point the past 20 or 30 years. Pretty easy guess. I mean, if you look at these, precipices, these cliffs, you can tell there's probably a lot of falls here. And you can hear the water down in that direction. I can hear the water. Oh, we can see the water. One thing I would like to do before I turn around is have some type of water access, but I don't know how possible that is, but at least here it looks like we are close. Well, there we are. There's some water, and it looks like it's dammed up. And I actually remember having on this trail before, and I even remember this particular rock. Me and Jelena actually came here, and that was actually the same day we discovered Doctor Who, and then we started watching Doctor Who, which is, in its own way, just as thrilling as a high mountain pool. That's some beautiful mountain-fed water just going down very fast. So the trail does continue in that direction quite a ways. It climbs up towards the snowy ridge of the mountains. But today I'm going to go back. I've walked about 45 minutes or an hour to get here, which is not a tremendous amount, but then I also have to hike an equal distance back down. Then I have to bicycle back to town. And right now it's about 3:45, so not like a terrible thing because it does stay light past 8, but just giving myself some cushion, and I'll be back on a different day, either here or to a similar place. So I did pass one family coming in, like 4 people, and that was close to the sign about registration. Since then, I actually haven't seen any people, so this is a great place for solitude. I think that at different times it might be a little bit more busy, but it's you have a chance for some solitude here in general. I also made a short about this, but here we have some garter snakes, and what I am assuming is that they were hibernating in a cluster under some of these rocks, and they're coming out towards the beginning of spring, and I don't know how many there are. I count like 4 or 5 bodies, but it's hard to tell because they could be curled around, and I have at least 2 heads, so they're in a cute little cuddle puddle there. Also, somewhat ironic, I was in Costa Rica for more than 5 months, did not see a single serpent. Here in Montana, where it's very cold, I see a whole bunch of them right there. Although, as I said before, I didn't you know, probably a good thing I did not see any snakes in Costa Rica, since there's like poisonous snakes here. There we just have garter snakes. Here we just have garter snakes. And now, wow, look at that view. So at no point on this hike did I really feel I was doing a strenuous uphill walk. On the bike ride up, yes, but on the hike I felt that it was pretty much level. But obviously I was slowly ascending over time, and right now I can hear the creek, you know, below me. So I climbed and now I'm going back down. So fairly vigorous hike, and I think it gets more vigorous past the point where I turned around, where I would start going up more, but I'm not sure about that. Another thing that is good about this hike is that you know how far you've gone and how far you have to go, because it's delineated by the canyon walls, and I can see here I'm pretty close to where the canyon stops, which is where the trailhead is. So right there, growing on this cut log, which is cut cleanly, so this is part of trail maintenance, there is some turkey tail or other type of bracket fungus growing. But you can still see that log is pretty intact. And in an Oregon forest, especially like in the Coast Range or something, that would have been taken apart by bracket fungus and other fungus, and it would be covered with them. Here, because it's drier and colder, even though this has some aspects of being a Pacific Northwest forest, there is a lot less fungus and stuff like that on the ground. So as I get pretty close to exiting the trail, one thing I wanted to say, I saw the snakes and I heard some birds. There's probably bird songs in the background. Not a lot of wildlife today, and maybe that's just because I wasn't paying attention. But also could be it's still early enough in the year and there's not like a lot of flowering plants and stuff out. So animals like squirrels and stuff like that, a lot of those smaller mammals and stuff, are not going to be present. I did see some insects, but also we're not really into high flowering season. So even late into April, there's still some dormancy here, kind of to be expected. So we're back at this sign. Interestingly enough, I came in on what I thought was the main trail that goes down this way, but apparently that came from somewhere else. So I'm going to walk out on this trail, which I'm assuming will lead me to the same place. Well, somebody just proved me a liar. I don't know if you can see it running over there. Did just see a squirrel. So there are some squirrels out. Couldn't tell what type it was. It was pretty small and black. It was a tree squirrel, but I couldn't tell more than that. So here at the trailhead, the proper trailhead, this is the sign, and so it is 11 miles to the junction with the Blodgett Pass trailhead, and I assume that's the one that actually goes over the mountain into Idaho, and the Blodgett Lake, which is the end of this trail, is 12.6 miles. And that can be really deceptive, because 12 miles, I could walk that in a city or even in like a park without much trouble, but from here, yeah, that's an overnight trip. Okay, so I'm going to go back down, and hopefully my bicycle is here. So my bicycle is here. I'm going to sit down, have a drink, eat a little something, and I'm going to be on my way. So time to pull out and go home. Probably won't say much about the downhill journey because I will be happily going downhill. So one thing to say, today we saw Blodgett Canyon, which is one of the more majestic and awe-inspiring trails in this area. And 2 weeks ago we went to Roaring Lion, and there's many more. There's like at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen with some side trails. So we still will probably go to Lake Como and Lost Horse, Bear Creek or Rock Creek, one of those two creatively named things. In the Bitterroot, we might go up there to the Blodgett overlooking the Canyon Creek Trail. And there's a lot of stuff to see, basically. And that's just on this side. On the other side, we've been up Scalcahoe Creek. We'll probably go up Weeping Child, maybe Willow Mountain. There's a lot of stuff to see. And hopefully we'll see some of it. And hopefully, like piece by piece, it gives a mosaic of how diverse the landscapes and the ecosystems are here. In any case, it's a long explanation to be walking through a parking lot. So I'm going to get on my bicycle and go. So I'm just riding down this road without too many problems. It's not too steep going down. It wasn't too steep going up and not too steep going down. I do think I put too much air in my tires because it's a little bit bumpier than it should be. This is a mountain bike and I got it over 60 PSI. So back on the pavement, and when I turn left here, I will be going downhill, probably pretty fast. This is the road I bicycled in on, and this is the way I'm going to take out. And to throw some geology in there, I think that what happened this way, which is going more straight, this is actually terminal moraines right here. There's lateral moraines and terminal moraines. This is a terminal moraine, and that's why it was so steep. This is going to be smoother, but I've said that and been wrong before, but let's find out. This is West Side Road going to the south, and if I followed West Side Road, I would end up on Roaring Lion, where we were 2 weeks ago. But I'm going to go straight down to town. Here I am on the bridge over the Bitterroot River, going back into town. It's close to 5 p.m., so this entire adventure took me, or will take me, about 4 or 5 hours. It was a leisurely hike. And honestly, sometimes, like when I get up in the morning, like it's hard to work up the willpower to, do something like this, especially if it's going to have climbs or be uncomfortable in places. But also, that's the reason I'm here, is to enjoy nature, see new things and document them. So I hope you like it. I'm going home now.